In this video, I'd like to show you guys some cool things that you can do with shelf tools. So the first thing that we're going to try to do is create an alternative solution to the problem of merging objects. So previously we were making just an OTL that automatically updates when you plug things in. And now we're going to make a shelf tool where you click the button, you select a bunch of objects in the viewport, and then it creates a geometry node with an object merge inside. Now, it should be noted that this method is slightly less flexible, but it serves as a good demonstration for some of the techniques that are available to you for making shelf tools. Alright, so let's just go ahead and create a new shelf tool. Call it merge objects. Maybe view merge objects. View merge objects. And hit apply. If you go to our script, okay, so the first thing that we need to take a look at before we can get into actually building our tool is what kwrgs looks like from a shelf tool. So if we print kwrgs, and you might be wondering where kwrgs comes from, and it's just defined inside a shelf tool in the same way that kwrgs is defined for parameter callbacks and for modules inside of OTLs. So if we print kwrgs and then click on this, we can see the way the kwrgs looks. Now you can notice that there's a lot of really useful information in here. You can detect if a shift click occurred in order to activate this shelf tool, if a control click occurred, an alt click. You can see which pane it was called from. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Now we're actually not going to be using this stuff directly for now, but it is important to have an idea of what information you can access from here. So we clear and close, get rid of that. The next thing we need to look at is this module called Toolutils. So if we say import Toolutils, Toolutils has a lot of useful utility functions for doing various things in Houdini, and a lot of them relate to shelf tools. We're not going to have time to go over all of them, and honestly a lot of them are really only there for internal side effects use, but some of them are very useful for us. The one that we're going to take a look at first is toolutils.generic tool. So the first argument the generic tool wants is kwrgs, so you just pass it in the dictionary straight away. And the second thing that it wants is the type name that you want to create. So if we say something like geo, we can hit apply. And now if we click our shelf tool, it just creates the node for us. But the interesting thing about this is that if we go over here to our context and we say network pane available in object, hit apply. Now if we call our shelf tool from the tab menu in here, it actually gives us the box that we're used to when we put down nodes. So we're effectively putting down a geometry node the way that we're used to, but then we can make modifications inside of it. How do we do that? Well, generic tool actually returns the new node. So we could say something like geo node equals, and then maybe geo node.display node.destroy to get rid of the file sop inside. So if we delete this now, we hit tab and we say view merge objects and put it down. Of course we have to hit apply first. View merge objects. It'll create it and you can see that it immediately deleted the file sop. So this in itself is a pretty useful tool because we could make a tool that automatically creates an empty geometry container, which side effects doesn't let us do straight away. But for this tool, we actually want to create a merge. So all we have to do is say merge node equals geonode.create node. And then if you remember how create node works, we just give it object merge as the type, and we'll call it merge from obj. as the name, and hit apply. So now if we delete geo1 and we create our new view merge objects, there it is. And there's our merge node inside. Okay, so I would like to name this node so it's not just geo1 when we put it down. So let's just fix that really fast. The second argument, just as before, is the name of the node. So let's just call it merge. Hit apply. So if we get rid of that and we say view, there we go, merge. Alright. So let's just go ahead and create a bunch of random objects that we want to be able to merge together. So let's make a geo, copy it a couple times, maybe move this guy over here, and this guy over here. Let's go inside and delete the file swap. We'll just put a different type of platonic solid in each one. So tetrahedron in this one, delete the file swap, platonic solid, octahedron, let's say, and just for fun, soccer ball. Okay, so when we run this tool, we would like it to ask us which objects to merge, because just merging all of the objects from object level is probably not very helpful. So how do we do that? Well, the simplest way would be to just pick them in the viewport. But fortunately, the way that Houdini works, we can also select them in the network editor, and it should work. So the way we do that is we first get the viewport object. So we can say viewer equals toolutils dot scene viewer. And what this does is return a scene viewer object. Now there are a ton of really cool things that we can do with this viewer object, but let's just take a look for now at the one that's most directly relevant to us. So if we say viewer dot select objects, and this function does exactly what it sounds like. It will allow us to select objects in the viewport. So if we just say select objects, let's just go ahead and store the output of this in a variable. So we can say selection equals, just to see what it's going to return. And let's print selection so that we can tell what's going on. So if we hit apply now, something kind of interesting happens. So if we run our shelf tool, you can see that right away it pops up the console and it shows us the OBJ node. And the reason for that is that it's selecting it straight away. So it thinks that we already have a node selected, and then it just runs the rest of the code right away, which isn't quite what we want. So the way that we can get around that is right after we create this geo node, we can just say geo node.set selected false and hit apply. Let's just go ahead and delete this merge node, make sure we don't have anything selected, and run this. So you can see that this is no longer selected, and now it's giving me this prompt down here in the status bar. It says select objects. And now I can select some objects in the viewport. So if we select maybe these two, and hit enter, now it brings up the console and it shows us our selection. So now all we have to do is just get those paths and put them on our merge node. So the way we're going to do that is we're just going to accumulate those paths into a space-separated string. So we'll say nodes to merge equals an empty string for node in selection. Let's actually make this nodes to merge a list. So we'll just accumulate this list, and then we'll use the join function to put them together as a space-separated list. So we'll just say nodes to merge.append node.path, and then we just want to set the merge parameter on our merge node. So we can say merge node.parm obj path1 dot set space dot join nodes to merge. So all we're doing is accumulating a list of paths, of node paths that we selected, and then using the string.join function, we're just giving it a space, so that's the character that we want to use to join all of the paths in this list. And then we set that on this obj path1 parameter. So if we hit apply now, and we run our shelf tool, it asks us to select some objects. I'll select these two, and hit enter. And now if we turn off all of these, you can see that it's merging them. If we go inside, it is merging them. Now they aren't in the right place, and that's because we were using object level transforms. So we actually need to pick up those transforms. We can do that by changing this menu into this object. So anytime we need to do something manually, we need to look to see if we can automate it. So let's just get rid of this node, turn all of these back on, and actually let's check to see what the name of that parameter is on the object merge. Move this over. This is xform type. So how do we see what this actually needs to be? Like what we need to set this to. It could be a string parameter, it could be an integer parameter, we need to find out what that is. Well, let's just set it to what we want it to be and then eval it. So if I go to my blurb tool here, it doesn't really matter. Let's just delete this, drag this node in, just say print dot eval parm, and the name of it was xform type, so xform type, and hit apply. Click on this, 1. So we want to set it to 1, and it should set it to this. Alright, let's go ahead and delete this and see if that works. So if we say merge node.parm xform type dot set 1 and hit apply, and then run our shelf tool, grab these two guys and hit enter. If we turn them off, you can see that this merge node now contains them. So it seems to be working, and yes, it did set it to the correct value. Now the cool thing about the way that this works is if we turn on our geometry nodes again, and we actually just run our tool from the viewport, we can still select them and hit enter, and it works in the exact same way if we turn them off.